Hi everybody and welcome to the Rubbin' Is Racing Daily Fantasy NASCAR Show, brought to you by FantasyDonks.com, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know to start playing daily fantasy sports. I'm Sean Big Papa Williams.
I'm Jamie Learjet Lear.
And we'll be bringing you our breakdown of the Quaker State 400 at Kentucky International Speedway from Sparta, Kentucky. We have yet another soggy race-filled week. NASCAR is unveiling a new aerodynamics package on the cars that is supposed to allow for more passing and better racing and less downforce on the cars. The problem is all but one of the sessions of practice for the drivers was rained out this week, including qualifying. I'm sorry, 2 sessions, but they were both rain-shortened sessions. So we didn't get to see how the drivers were responding to this new aerodynamics package. A couple of drivers probably won't like it at all. With the less downforce, it means the car is going to be a little bit looser and a little bit faster. We just don't know who those drivers are that don't like this setup yet. But they
haven't had a chance to really get a lot of track time with this new package.
Right. So that spells disaster. So, but there's much more to come about this week's race, and we'll talk more about that soggy affair. But first, it's time for last week's recap. This is a segment where we keep ourselves honest and our picks honest, so you know how we're doing, and hopefully we're helping you win money.
Yeah.
All right. Definitely. So Lear, tell us about the best and worst of last week.
All right. So basically from last week, the Coke Zero 400 from Daytona. I don't know if you stayed up late till 3 a.m. to watch that thing. We had a little bit of a rain delay. That Florida sprinkle shower that you predicted last week really came down. But they started the race, I don't know, what was it, like 11 o'clock and 12 o'clock?
It was about 11:45, yeah.
I ended up falling asleep and waking back up with maybe about 100 laps to go. But no, it was a good race. I always loved Daytona restrictor plate racing. But we'll go back to our picks that we had last week real quick. Starting out, Kurt Busch, and also too, these were our picks before qualifying even happened. So we had pretty good results there. But Kurt Busch was my burning rubber last week. He started 28th, finished 5th. He scored 71.5 points and was 24% owned. So, if you had that guy in your lineup, you definitely got a good turnout from him, because he ended up finishing, really, really well there at Daytona.
Yep. Absolutely.
Second one would be my other burning rubber pick, Ryan Newman, in the 31. He started 17th. He finished 8th. Scored 41.75. So, he didn't light the world on fire by any means, but definitely didn't get you any negative points. And he was only 12.4% owned. And his price point was like $9,600. So,
right. And like we said at Daytona, the key was avoiding the wrecks. And as long as you did that, you were fine, brings me to one of my picks, Danica. Unfortunately, she wrecked, and she was running fine, just trying to avoid it, moving up. She was gaining points. Finished with positive points, but it was only because she had gained so many points before the wreck, and unfortunately that didn't work out. But the Tony Stewart pick of mine did work out.
Yeah, definitely.
Scored good points. Made me some money last week, which was a nice change of pace in NASCAR.
Yeah, 46.25 points for Tony Stewart, 6.25 for Danica Patrick. Tony Stewart was started 31st, finished 14th, and he was only 14.6% owned. So yeah.
It was a good play. Unfortunately, the Danica part of that equation did not pan out.
Screwed you.
As well as my going to the garage pick, which was Earnhardt Jr., which, by the way, I am 50-50 so far this season in my going to the garage pick. Either you're guaranteed that guy will be out of the race or a terrible point getter for you, or that's who's going to win the race. So you might want to
poison on that.
You might want to take 2 lineups. One where you fade, one where you completely fade my going to garage selection, and one where you just pick them and put them first.
Yeah, definitely.
And you'll probably see that again this week.
And my going to the garage guy was Martin Truex Jr. I hope you took my advice on this one and stayed away from the Truex Jr. Because he ended up crashing in the race. He scored a negative 12.5 points, was only 10.8% owned, so a lot of people were kind of off of him last week, and he started 9th and finished the race 38th. So,
and in all fairness to us, we did tell you to avoid all the juniors, and we did go 2 for 3 on.
And Sam Morris Jr. finished with negative points as well.
So we hit 2 or 3.
Yeah,
I mean, that's not too bad. 66%. I'll
take it
every day. All right. Who was the best driver last week, and who was the worst driver that you could have owned?
Best driver last week was number 11 in the FedEx, Denny Hamlin. He started 35th, finished 3rd in the race, scoring a whopping 87 points.
Wow.
At a price point of $11,100, and he was only 18.4% owned.
Yeah, dude. I mean, he's scoring 14 points more than the guy that led the race from start to finish. Like from 1 to 1, like from beginning to end. That's just crazy. That the NASCAR points, he could outpoint the winner.
And I would want to say that we would definitely be on that guy. Obviously, we did the show after qualifying, especially where he qualified at so late and such a big name guy. So the other there's kind of a 1.2 of the best play last week. The other one was Kevin Harvick, also a very poor qualifier, big name guy. Obviously, has had a great season so far, but he started 34th and finished the race 4th. Scored 75.75 points at a cost of $11,600. So he was way down from his normal price point, but also he was 40% owned.
Wow. Well, I mean, it goes to show you they adjusted the prices last week, and actually we thought it was a better adjustment on the prices than what we've seen.
I thought a lot more variable for
his ownership percentage went back through the roof, and so DraftKings jacked his price back up this week, and we'll talk about that a little bit more coming up. But now that we've got last week's race all wrapped up, it's time for everybody's favorite Who's Burning Rubber segment. And we'll start this week's Burning Rubber segment with my first pick. And my first pick this week is Matt Keselowski. At $12,100, he's underpriced. It's just DraftKings, when they went back through, they looked at ownership percentages, it looks like, from Daytona, and tried to base prices off of that, not off of track history and who's dominated this track. And to be honest, I'm worried that everybody and their brother is going to be on this pick and my other pick, but he owns this track. He's won 2 of the 4 races that they've held in Kentucky. He's also led the most laps on this track.
Last year, he dominated this race. I mean, without a doubt, just dominated the race. He led over 100 laps last year.
Yes, and here's the thing. I think he's going to pick off Dillon in the first 5 laps. I think he and Gordon will team up, running 2 and 3. They'll pass Dillon. They won't look back. They won't look back, at least at Dillon. There will be a couple of other cars that move towards the front, but I have Keselowski along with Jeff Gordon and a couple other drivers just in that front pack, separating with this new aerodynamics package.
Yeah.
It's the more experienced drivers, the better the better technical drivers that can adjust to the cars being more loose, and running a little bit more on the outside. Like, I think that's what's going to happen. Who's your first burner rubber pick, Lear?
My first burning rubber pick this week is also a Penske guy. Penske has just I don't know if they've got the secret playbook to this racetrack or what's going on, but Penske guys just absolutely dominate this race. They've qualified this week at the 2nd position and the 4th position. So, and last year, the 2 Penske cars, Keselowski and Logano, both dominated the race. Logano actually led 37 laps last year, and last year he qualified 9th, qualified 4th and finished 9th. And then this year he's starting 2nd. So, $11,400 for Joey Logano. He's a little bit of a higher price point, but I'm definitely all over this guy. I think he's going to get you at least 50 points or more, and I think he's going to be up there the whole race today. So, and
it's a good guy to get off of the main pack. I think a lot of the main pack this week is going to be on Harvick. I think Logano makes a nice swerve from that. If they're not on Harvick, they're going to be on Keselowski, and that brings me to my next pick, Kyle Busch, who everybody else is going to be on. I think Rowdy just loves himself some Kentucky. He has 3 top 5 finishes in 4 races, including a win. His price point is just absurd at 10,800.
Yeah. He's going to be a very, very highly owned guy.
The man has led over a quarter of the laps on this track in the four races in 4 years here. He starts ninth. I think he'll be in that lead pack with Gordon and Keselowski all night. Look for them to trade spots on fastest lap, on leading lap. Those three guys are the guys I love this week, and at their price points, they're easy to put into your lineup.
Yeah, and last year, Kyle Busch started 18th. He finished the race second behind Keselowski. And then also on top of that, Kyle Busch, it's kind of weird. I don't know if you look back through his history or not, but it seems like when he does poorly at a track the week prior, he always comes out the next week and just lays the hammer down and comes out and has a really strong finish. And he didn't do so well last week. But as far as that goes, I definitely love Kyle Busch this week.
Sporting the only negative on Kyle Busch is he's sporting the crispy M&M car.
Yes.
And I wasn't a fan of crispy M&Ms when they first came out. I think it's tragic that we've brought back crispy M&Ms, but I don't have Jello pudding pops back.
I need the Jello pudding.
Jello pudding pops. Or I really want my High C Ecto coolers back. Those are the greatest drink ever invented, and it's a tragedy that we've brought back crispy M&Ms, and those two things are still off the market.
Yeah, my guess is they're not really selling too many crispy M&Ms out of all the money that they're advertising for it. But
like a
good luck to you.
Cross with a malted milk ball. Not good. All right, Lear, who's your last burning rubber pick?
My last burning rubber pick for this week is the number 15 energy drink vehicle for a Clint Boyer of Emporia, Kansas. Old Clint Boyer, he started last year in 23rd. He finished 23rd last year, and he started 11th. So he kind of fell back a little bit into the field last year. But this year, he's qualified 30th. And
nowhere to go but up.
Exactly. And this is my guy to get you a bunch of place differential, pass differential points. I'm hoping that coming off of his top 10 finish last week off of Daytona, that he's going to come back with another strong week this week and get another top 10 finish. And, at his price point, man, he's $8,600. This is definitely a guy you should own, being way down there in the field. And definitely going to be moving up through the field. And at his price point, he's got nowhere to go except to give you some good positive points and help you win that GPP.
Yeah, I really like this pick, and the reason why is I think he was down there because they weren't planning on having these rain shortened practices. It looked like they were trying to adjust the aero package, and he was out there testing how the car responded. When he starts that low, if you look at the other cars that are starting that low, most of them are because the cars don't have the chops to run, even with the new aero package.
Yeah.
I believe he was just trying to feel it out. The low starting position is great for fantasy purposes because you're going to get a lot of pass differential and place differential points. Like you said, I actually really like the Clint Boyer pick. I think it's a great pick. Now that we've got our Who's Burning Rubber picks out of the way, let's move on to everybody's second favorite segment, which is Who's Going to the Garage. Like I said earlier, I have a 50-50 chance of either telling you the winner or the loser of the race here. And I like to just grab it and go for it with my picks here. I don't try to cheap out. My pick of Who's Going to the Garage this week is Kevin Harvick. And I hear your size out there now. Look, he's just too expensive at $13,900. If you took away his name and just analyzed his price point and what he can do for you this week on the track, I think he's too expensive. The math just says he is. So when I take his name out of the equation, that means he's a no play. When I put his name back into the equation, I feel dirty about saying this, but it's just too much to pay for a guy, especially when I've got two guys that own this track historically, and I can get them way cheaper.
Yeah,
it's just it doesn't make sense unless you're trying to be contrarian. But I don't think that people are using Harvick as a contrarian play. I think people are going to just default Harvick, which is what we've seen pretty much all year. And that means his ownership percentage is going to be super high too. So if you can fade it in that aspect as well, that's also a good play to keep away from Harvick. But he qualified 15th, so he had some potential. But what I noticed was in practices, he didn't look like he was feeling out the aero package as much as well. I mean, as while he was trying to fill out the aero package, he was actually trying to run, and he was significantly slower than the rest of the lead cars. Yeah. And that's what concerns me here, is that maybe he is not comfortable with this new aero package yet and just needs some more time. Maybe he will start performing well at the end of the race, but I mean, that's a lot of race time and a lot of cars he can fall back behind, and I'm just avoiding him at that 13.9 price tag this week.
Very true. I'm kind of in disagreement with you here. You know, Kevin Harvick, the guy, obviously dominates the Cup Series. And yeah, I totally agree with you on his price point, 13.9. It's stupid ridiculous to pay for one guy, and then you got to pair him up with like Alex Bowman or you know, Landon Castle,
and those guys are running almost 3 full seconds off the pace, like in practice.
And you know, there are going to be a lot of lapping traffic in this race. You know, so as far as Kevin Harvick goes, though, I think the guy is definitely going to be a top 5 finisher this week. I have some Kevin Harvick on my sprinkle throughout my lineups. You know, going with those Alex Bowman plays, those Landon Castle plays to pair up with him to get it under that 20,000 for 2 players. But you know, you also too, if you do something like that, you got to pick your other rest of your 5, you know, 2 or 3 drivers for your 5 drivers under the, you know, $10,000 price point. So you are definitely committing yourself that Kevin Harvick is going to be your, you know, big bopper. He's going to come in there and score you all your points.
Well, Lear, let's just assume your argument's right for a second. And this is what I like about our show, because we love to discuss fantasy. We never take it personally. But let's assume you're right and he does finish top 5. Okay, that's a pass differential of plus 10.
Yeah.
Right? So he's going to get 20 points there. And I mean, we've seen his car stats. Unless they've done something to tweak it, he's not near the top to run fastest laps or anything like that.
Sure.
And he's not going to lead, even if he gets to that top pack. So is he worth 30 points at 13.9? Like,
no, definitely.
See,
definitely
and that's
not.
the problem. Like, that's why I'm recommending him as the going to garage pick. Is I just think like even like you, in order to roster him at that price point, you have to expect. You have to have him win the race from the 15 hole in order for him to pay off even remotely close.
I agree with you on that.
I just don't think most people are seeing it that way. I think most people are going with the name, and there's like Harvick's a beast, and that's why I'm recommending the fade. But enough on the Harvick debate. As we both did very well in that. No, I agree, and that's what I love about this show, Lear. I love that we sometimes have different opinions, and you know, just like the people out there, this is how you have to approach daily fantasy.
Sure. Yeah, definitely.
You need to, if you don't have somebody else to throw the ideas off of, throw them off of us. You can hit us up on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, any of those outlets.
FantasyDonks.com.
Yeah, we will answer any of your questions that you have and help you debate out some picks. Maybe you'll agree with us, maybe you won't.
Right.
But that's the way.
That's the fun part about debating why.
Right, and it's to be honest, it's the way the best fantasy players are made. Right, like you have to, like you'll hear arguments, some things that you want to add from other people, some things you want to take away. With that, Lear, what do you want to add to the Who's Going to Garage this week?
My going to the garage pick this week. I've picked this guy a few times going to the garage. He went to the garage last week. I actually picked him on my team for the lug nut, and he disappointed me. So to punish him, I'm putting him on the going to the garage pick this week. Kyle Larson, the number 42 Target car. Kyle Larson qualified first. He has nowhere to go except to the rear of the field. I know he was running some of the faster laps in the practicing, but he just doesn't have the history here at the 1.5 mile tracks. And you know, he is at a good price point. I will give him that, $9,600. So a lot of people will be on him because of that aspect. Also, too, he'll probably lead a few laps, maybe, depending on what position he picks. I'm assuming he'll probably pick the outside. But you know, I don't see it there for Kyle Larson. I mean, maybe top out at maybe 20, 30 points. But I'm not on the Kyle Larson.
I have him literally losing points at 5 laps in and then he'll settle down once he gets back to the middle of the pack.
Yeah.
I just do not buy that he is the best car out there.
Nope.
I don't buy that he's going to lead these guys with the new passing package for the aerodynamics. I don't buy it. Like I'm with you all day on this, and it's not that necessarily he's going to wreck or anything. It's just that he has nowhere to go but down.
Right.
And I just don't see the history of being able to run neck and neck with these studs that we have this week on this track.
Yeah, especially the guys that are already qualified in the top 10. I mean, their history here at this track, I just.
Well, and aside from a couple of drivers, I just don't see a lot of movement out of the front group except for a couple people that overqualified falling back.
Yeah, because the history at this track is you get up front, you stay up front.
Yeah.
So, sorry, Kyle. Maybe you'll prove me wrong this week, but hit me up if you disagree with me.
Right on. Now's the time in our show where this is the one segment we're really proud of, where we do our lineups for the week, and you get to see what lineup we have running in the lug nut, the 5K contest. We enter other lineups as well, but this is the lineup that we have for discussion purposes. And the first one that I put out there is Eric Almirola at 7,900. Actually, he's the last guy added to this team. He's a value fill-in, and you'll see why. I started this team off with Kozlowski. We've already covered why he's a great play this week. I then added Kyle Busch at the 10-8 behind him, and then went with Jeff Gordon. Look,
of course.
Yes, I know. You guys know I have like a man crush on Jeff Gordon. Here's the thing. Once again, he's in the AARP car. This is the only track in NASCAR that he has not won. If he wins this race this week, he has the perfect NASCAR slate, meaning he's won at every track in his retirement year. He's in the AARP car. He's retiring. It's just storyline. The storyline is just amazing. And let's be honest, other than 1 week, Jeff Gordon has not been the bane of my existence.
No.
He's been scoring what he should. Could score a little bit more, but he's not one of the guys that messes with you. He hasn't really wrecked, other than the week that they forgot to put a lug nut on the tire, and he fell back 30 positions when he was leading the race.
I hope that just for your sake, for my sake, and the viewer's sake, that Jeff Gordon wins this week, so I don't, and everybody else doesn't have to hear about Jeff Gordon next week.
Dude, I can't guarantee anything. He's been my favorite driver for years.
But I will tell you this: if he finishes with 30 points or less, okay, you cannot pick him next week.
Done. I promise.
Is that agreed?
Deal. Agreed.
All
right. If he finishes with less than 30 points, I cannot pick Jeff Gordon.
No.
I'll even say I will not pick him for 2 weeks.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right.
You're welcome.
My next pick is Austin Dillon at 8,500. I think he's qualified well. He's up near the front. I look for him to run well on this track. I like what he's doing. And then, like I said, Eric Almirola as my cheap fill-in at 7,900. And see, I went with the two guys that have the best history here, and went with Gordon as well. That's not fairly overpriced. And I still have to reach out for an Eric Almirola.
Yeah.
And the question is if I add $3,000 to any one of those drivers' totals, what am I left doing?
Right.
On the
Right.
So I'm
yeah. So are you basically saying that the strategic way of getting this done this week is probably going to be more of the mid-tier guys instead of a studs-duds lineup?
Yeah, I just don't think the studs-duds pays off in this race. It pays off on restrictor plate racing usually, and or unless you can find guys that are the way this track breaks down is the front group stays in the front.
Yeah.
And you have to like the car packages. And what I saw out of those guys were all guys that seemed to like this new car setup and didn't have problems adjusting to it, and were running the fastest laps. Keep in mind, these are all guys. I didn't want one of the guys out there that had ran only 3 laps and then stopped in the practices, right? Which there are several of. I wanted the guys that were out running multiple laps. A lot of these guys had the best 10-lap averages in speed and practices, and that's why I went with them. That shows me not only do you like the aerodynamic package, but you're running the laps consistently at a good speed.
Yeah.
And, you know.
And I definitely like the Austin Dillon play too this week.
Yeah. Sweet. So what is your lineup that we got entered?
So, you know, as normal, starting out with my burner and rubber guys. First guy is Joey Logano. You know, he qualified really high. I anticipate he's going to finish really high. He's going to have some fastest laps in there. He's going to lead some laps, definitely for sure. He just needs to avoid the wreck for it to definitely pay off on that. And you know, he's at a decent price point, 11.4. I know that's a little bit higher, but you know, he's one of my guys that I'm guaranteeing is gonna get some really good points this week. Second guy is Clint Boyer. You know, we all know the rationale behind that. Qualified late. He's going to be my pass and place differential guy. So hoping that he can bank at least 50 points, if not more. You know, hopefully finishing in the top 10. My third guy was Kyle Busch. I know we both agreed upon on that one. I just love Rowdy.
Don't mess with Rowdy this week.
No,
just don't.
I definitely like him to maybe finish first or second this week, even though he did qualify a little bit later. But you know, I mean, he qualified top 10, but
you know what though? Those are a good start on pass differential, place differential.
My fourth driver is Austin Dillon. So another guy that we agreed upon this week. Austin Dillon also qualified in the top 10. He's at a really, really good price point as well this week at only $8,500. So I have a feeling he's going to be one of those that's going to be pretty highly owned. He was running really fast laps as far as the practices are concerned. And you know, coming off that really scary finish last week from Kevin Harvick getting into Denny Hamlin getting loose, and then pushing Austin Dillon up into the safer barrier. And basically ripping his car apart. I don't know. I just have a inkling that God's going to be smiling down on Austin Dillon this week and say, you know, son, you survived this huge wreck. I'm going to reward you with, you know, doing really well this week.
You know, the thing is Austin Dillon was also out there running the most laps in practice. Like they went out. His team clearly saw that there was weather issues.
Yeah.
They went out. They ran well. He has the second best the best 10 consecutive lap average. He's second in that category, which is usually a really good category to judge how well a guy's going to do in this week's race. I love the Dillon play. I love that lineup. I totally get where you're going. It makes sense to me. And if you notice in both of our lineups, we both avoided the heavy money.
Yeah. I definitely did not take anybody that's really, really high. Anybody, the highest one is Joey Logano at 11.4. So
well, both of us actually faded Jimmy Johnson as well.
Yeah.
Do you
think
he's a good contrarian play?
I do like Jimmy Johnson this week.
Okay.
1.5 mile tracks. This is the most common track that NASCAR runs, and he finishes really, really high at these type of races. And you know, he is pretty expensive when it comes to him. I mean, he's $13,100. So kind of the same thing with Kevin Harvick. You're selling yourself out. You know,
but that $800 can be important.
Yeah, definitely
at the end.
But I definitely think that Jimmy's gonna finish up there.
And I think what's more important is the ownership percentage difference between Jimmy and it is going to be significant. Like he's going to be significantly less owned, giving you a better advantage on the field if you assume that both of them are just the dominant guys in the 1.5 mile tracks.
Definitely. And then my fifth driver for my team in the Lugnut this week is a Hendrick Motorsports driver, but Casey Kane.
Back to the Hendricks well with Kane.
10,500 is his price point this week. He did qualify 20th, so he is in the middle of that pack. But you know, Casey is always done fairly well at the 1.5 mile tracks. But I definitely like Casey Kane this week to get some pass differential up there and hopefully finish in the top 10 as well. But you know, he also has a chance to have some fastest laps led too. So
yeah, the reason why I wasn't on Casey Kane is they didn't run a lot of practice laps, and his fastest lap was the first lap out, and that always just kind of scares me with a guy, especially under a new aerodynamics package. Like you're telling me the first time you got behind the wheel and drove it around the track, that's the best time you could do with it.
Sure.
That concerns me. But I see what you're doing there, and what you've done is you tried to reach a little bit lower and try to get guys that have
got to pick that low hanging fruit.
Well, you wanted to go for more pass differential, right? Like in place differential. That's what you're going for this week.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm thinking that like the track's going to break down this week on a laps led and fastest laps basis.
And I definitely can see that too, because obviously with the history of this track, the guys up front usually tend to stay up front.
Well, and to be honest, there's probably what's going to happen is probably going to be a combination of the two.
Yeah.
Somewhere in the middle of both of our philosophies, which is closer to what your lineup does. Your lineup tends to stray towards that middle ground where you've got some of the guys up front, some of the guys that can move. That's actually a really well rounded out lineup. I really like it, Lear. Did a great job.
But one thing we didn't talk about, which we usually do, is this week, we are at the Quaker State 400, presented to you by Advanced Auto Parts at Sparta, Kentucky. It is a 1.5 mile track. It is the most common track that we do have on the NASCAR circuit. The degree of banking on this track is only about 14 degrees, so it's not going to be as high speeds into the corners, and this is a really rough track. There are some spots in the track too where you will see sparks and all that flying from the equipment underneath the cars, where cars will be bottoming out. And there's only a couple grooves that these guys can run, so a lot of the guys will be up front, will stay up front, and there's going to be a lot of guys that get lapped. So there's going to be a lot of lapping the field in this. So you're going to come up to a lot of lap traffic when it comes to guys up front trying to maneuver through the track as well.
And we've got cars that have a new aerodynamics package on them, automatically that is designed to have less downforce so they can pass. We have got drivers that have not been able to test these cars effectively in a short, narrow track. I mean, guys, I wouldn't super invest in NASCAR this week. I'd play a few games, but I see wrecks being a thing this week, and I see it. I see it destroying a lot of lineups because I think it's going to be up near the front. Hopefully, it's not near the top cars, but it could be a big one.
My guess too is that there will probably be a competition caution early in the race. I don't know how many laps they'll do that at, but definitely because with the weather this week and with the new packaging, they're definitely probably going to have a competition caution.
I haven't seen NASCAR announce anything about the competition caution yet, but if they do, we'll definitely post that out for our viewers.
And as far as the weather, it's supposed to be, it's a night race tonight, so they're going to be racing under the lights. It's supposed to be in the late 70s, 78 degrees, and there is 20% chance of rain. So hopefully, with fingers crossed and a couple of prayers that the race will get in, we won't have any rain-shortened race this week or a huge delay.
Unfortunately, the Midwest has been just getting rained on for months now. I would assume that you'll probably get a stray shower that'll stop the race for at least a couple laps.
So 267 laps total at this 1.5 mile track. But let's get it on, boys.
With that said, remember to check out fantasydonks.com for all your daily fantasy needs. Help support us by clicking on those links to join some of the sites where you can play NASCAR. You can play us even for money on DraftKings or some of the other sites. Remember to like us and share us, retweet, favorite, whatever on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. And remember
fantasydonks.com. Make sure you go check out the website there at fantasydonks.com for everything you need when it comes to daily fantasy.
Thanks for watching, guys. You guys have a great one. We'll continue the questions next week. We didn't have one this week, and hopefully we get some good
I really wanted to do
tonight.
one from Ashley Judd since she's from Kentucky.
It should have been something about mint juleps too. That would have been nice.
But
mint juleps, Kentucky Derby, UK. It's probably, there's only like 5 things I know about Kentucky.
I don't know much either.
All right, guys. Well, I'm Sean Big Papa Williams.
I'm Jamie the Learjet Lear.
Have a great weekend, and hopefully we all make some money tonight. And if we don't, we hope it's you. So have a good one.
All right. Have a great weekend, everybody.